Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
I hope that losing control has nothing to do with the bladder when they listen to our show. What do you think, John?
Well, you know, we are sponsored by a number of urologists, Brad.
And the Depends contract. We just got that the other day as well, too. John, good morning. It is hump day, as Shelley used to say, her favorite day of the week. It is time for the Brad and John show, as the Brad and John Orchestra singers just informed us of that. So, not getting in the way of anything, we start the show off with John Combest's top three. What he does is every single day he puts together his list of all the important news items across the state of Missouri, puts it up on johncombest.com, C-O-M-B-E-S-T, johncombest.com. We are graced with John's presence as he walks into the studio and gives us the top three. We have a very prominent guy who counts them down for us, and he comes into the studio with John right behind him because nobody walks in front of John. And he walks behind John in step and walks up to the microphone and says,
"We're on our way to the number one in third place.
A potential new police and county government building in St. Louis County. Have you heard about this, Brad?
yes, don't get me going on this kind of stuff.
Well, I think I'm going to get you going on this kind of stuff, Brad. Now, you say, John, I've been reading your website for 20 plus years. I listen to you on the Brad and John show. You never talk about county government. True. I don't talk about county government because I really don't pay attention to it. It's not the scope of my website. However, the good thing about this story is it involves a prominent Missouri Democrat named Mike Kelley. So Mike Kelley is one of the top Democrat consultants in the state of Missouri. And according to the Post-Dispatch story, which came out, it's by Kelsey Landis, and it came out yesterday. I have a link to it on my website today. The county council is considering paying Mike Kelley to help with the educational campaign about this tax increase. So it's a really good example of a model by which folks who do political work and who help Republicans and Democrats get elected can also do some public advocacy and public education work, Brad. So did you happen to check the story out?
Yeah, I know the whole crazy story. I've followed this for a while. It's been bouncing around for several months.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it's interesting. And again, Mike Kelley, and so the political arm of what he does is called Show Me Victories. They work for Democrat candidates. Mike Kelley is the son of union and organized labor legend Bob Kelley in the St. Louis area. Mike Kelley was instrumental in the administration and campaigns of Steve Stenger, the former county executive. The Post-Dispatch ran a pretty detailed profile on Mike Kelley back in 2019 that talked about how important he was to Steve Stenger's campaign. And now Sam Page, I believe that Show Me Victories did some work for Sam Page, and now they might get this contract to help educate the public about this new government and the new county government and police center.
Let's come back to that. Let's finish up with the top three, and then I'll come back to that because I'll give you my opinion on that because of the fact that we just had a very similar thing happen in St. Charles City. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
I'm not.
Yeah, we'll talk about that as well, too. Okay, here we go.
Up a notch to number two.
The Biden student loan maneuvers. Brad, you mentioned this yesterday. And yesterday, after we got off the air, Andrew Bailey filed a suit in U.S. District Court along with a number of other Republicans to put an end to Biden's student loan scheme. He says that it will saddle working Missourians with even more debt. And this is a continuation of Republicans' pushback against the Biden student loan scheme. Now, Brad, one thing that was interesting yesterday, you kind of smartened me up to this when we were on our show yesterday, and I wasn't aware of the latest Biden machinations on this. And I was on a call yesterday, the call that I dial into, the macroeconomics call, and then there's a follow-up call to that. But do you know why the president selected Wisconsin, Brad, to make that talk about canceling student debt?
I remember reading this, but I can't remember. Go ahead and tell me.
According to Hedgeye, which is the call that I dial into, Wisconsin was one of the hotbeds, Brad, where people either voted undecided or they wrote in other candidates in the Democratic primary against Joe Biden.
That's right. That's right. He didn't do exceptionally well, even though he was the only guy on the ballot.
Yeah. And so on the call, the guys were discussing the fact that actually a college campus is not a perfect scenario for it because the people actually carrying the debt are out of college now, the people that it would benefit. And so, but the idea of going to a popular school in Wisconsin and having a media event is, if it's a hotbed of folks who oppose you in your otherwise coronation, then it makes sense for the administration to go there.
Yeah, well, once again, I guess the problem I have with this whole situation is when you get, and once again, same situation with Trump and any of these guys who are the president. They can jet here and I don't know, you don't even want to know how much it costs to keep Air Force One in the air for every single hour. And yet they can essentially say, well, that's not a campaign trip. I'm just taking care of an important matter in Wisconsin. You know what I'm saying? So in other words,
it would almost be like St. Louis County government paying $99,000 to a political consultant for education. I mean, that's not political. That's educating the voters about why they should increase their own taxes.
At least the
but
guys.
I see some people would draw an analogy there, Brad.
At least the guys on radio from time to time. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Okay. And finally,
the number one.
You could call a Hail Mary, Brad. Josh Hawley is seeking to attach his Radiation Exposure Compensation Act to a popular tax bill that just might pass the upper chamber. Josh Hawley says that he's going to put RECA onto a tax bill, and he says, quite frankly, that if this maneuver doesn't work, he doesn't really see another path forward for this legislation. And that is brought to us by States Newsroom via Missouri Independent, and it is one of the top links on my website today.
What's sad about that is you've just given the number 2 story and the number 1 story. Okay, the number 2 story is that Biden is going to essentially saddle all of us with more debt by essentially canceling the student loans and all these people, but yet they won't put money forward to help the people here in the St. Louis area, the people that live in North County, live along Coldwater Creek, the people that are exposed to out in St. Charles County along 94 from Francis Howe High School down through Defiance. And that has been going on for 80 plus years.
Yes, Brad.
I mean, it's not like it just happened a couple of years ago. And it's just, I don't understand this. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's an election year, and so Biden needs to energize some young voters, Brad, and young folks who are just a few years out of school that have made poor choices. So screw the radiation victims, Brad.
Right, and that's what's so sad about it is, I mean, and once again, we had this story a couple of weeks ago. Remember McDonald Boulevard? We talked about the fact they're closing,
we did.
And they're saying, to rebuild the bridge. Well, first off, there is
which isn't a bridge,
right? There's no bridge there. It's a culvert, and there was nothing wrong with the culvert. The reason they closed McDonald is because, once again, if you've been through there, and once again I go through it all the time, they've had the guys in the moon suits working on the south side of McDonald between Lindbergh and the Boeing headquarters right there at Airport Road, if you know where I'm talking about. Well, it used to be I'm sorry, it's not the Boeing headquarters. That was the McDonnell Douglas headquarters. And then when Boeing took over, I don't even know what they use that building for anymore. It's still sitting up there. Anyway, I used to drive through all the time, and the guys in the moon suits were on the south side of McDonald. And then they discovered all the radiation stuff on the north side of McDonald, and they started tearing out all the dirt there. And then they realized, oh, my God, McDonald is built on radiation dirt.
Who knew, Brad?
Yeah,
who had any idea?
Who knew? Okay. Back to the county government thing. Okay, first off, let me give 2 parallels. Last week on, what was it, Amendment C or Proposition C in St. Charles City, they voted on, I think it was like $85 million. It was a bond issue. Essentially, they're issuing bonds to build a new government center in St. Charles. Now, first off, you ever been in the City Hall in St. Charles?
I've been in the county government building, but not St. Charles City Hall, no.
Right across the street. Matter of fact, it's interesting because on one side, on the north side, you have the county, this is on the north side of the St. Charles City Hall, you have the St. Charles County Courts building. That's on the same side of the street, but it's across it's across a cross street, and then across the street on the other side of the street you have the county building right there. Okay.
Okay.
It's a very modernistic building, and matter of fact, I guess it's from one of the old like architecture when they built out the skyscrapers. It's what they call. It's sort of similar to construction in a very remote way to the World Trade Center. They called it a curtain wall kind of thing, where the walls are made out of reflective panels. Okay. Now, Dan Borgmeyer, since he's been mayor, has been complaining about the building. He says that there's millions of dollars worth of upkeep that needs to be done, and that it's gotten small. Now, his claim is that when the building was built, St. Charles City had about 40% of the residents that they have now, and they've run out of space in the building. Okay, I can sort of see that. Okay, because of the fact. So what they did was they passed this bond issue, and right down the street at the old ACF plant, if you know where that was, where they made, it's a great big long historical building where they made rail cars. As a matter of fact, if you know where the Foundry Arts Center is, that used to be where they actually built locomotives. Okay, so they bought that property and they passed the bond issue, and they're going to have a new expanded city hall, plus they're going to have a veteran center, a bunch of other stuff. Okay, once again, that's a bond issue. Now, let's take St. Louis County rather. Okay, St. Louis County has pretty much had stagnant population growth over the last 20, 30 years. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I think I'm sure that sounds accurate, Brad.
It hasn't grown like Franklin County and Warren County and St. Charles County, obviously, and Jefferson County. It's pretty much, matter of fact, I'll look up the stuff here.
Pretty stagnant.
Yeah, pretty stagnant.
People move out of the city into North County, and then people flee North County for St. Charles County. I
have business quite often in that very building, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that building. The thing what they screwed up was when the COVID thing hit, if you wanted to go to planning and zoning, you walked into the building. And matter of fact, back in the day, you walked in the building with no metal detectors. But when Steve Stenger became county executive, people are out to get him. I wonder why they were. Well,
yeah, but also he needed to know where he could get his campaign contributions from builders, Brad.
Right.
He wanted to track that. Go ahead.
So they put in the checkpoint Charlie with the security guys and the metal detectors, and then when COVID came around. The very first floor was the collector's office. You walk in the front door, literally on the right side was the collector's office, and the entire office was the collector's office. During COVID, they blocked off the elevators, so you can no longer go to any of the floors in that building. You can't go to the second floor.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Right, and now what you do is you got to go up to one of these goofy, stupid little iPad kiosks things. You have to put your name and phone number in, and you have to put what you want. And if it's not somebody who's sitting one of those seats, somebody has to get on the elevator from upstairs, come down, and talk to you. It's a pain in the gluteus maximus. And not only that, they've always complained about, I don't know if you know this is a thing, once again, I'm a construction nerd because my dad was a civil engineer. They've had a problem with the outside of the building. Do you know about this as well, too?
No, I don't know this.
The outside of the building is brick, and they've had problems with the brick shifting to the point where, the problem is that you have a very tall structure that's made out of brick, and let's say it's 5 or 6 stories tall, and you got a couple bricks at the bottom of that structure that fail. Guess what? You got a problem because
I see.
The rest of those
sounds like they need better union labor. Go ahead.
The rest of those bricks want to come down. And where are they going to build this? They're not going to do it in Clayton, are they? Are they going to buy more office buildings and
I don't know. This piece that's in the Post-Dispatch today doesn't say exactly geographically where it is. I'm sure listeners will point out to us.
Let me go back to the St. Charles City thing, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing Dan Borgmeyer, but he complains about a building that's, 40 or 50 years old, okay? The county office building, does your story say how old the St. Louis County office building is?
It does not.
Okay, let's say it's 50 years old, maybe 60. 50,
that seems about right, yeah.
Okay, well, I got in the radio business 50 years ago when I was in Clayton. It was there. So let's say it's 60 years old, okay? Why is it that we have buildings that people complain about, it's a 60-year-old building, but yet we have buildings in the state of Missouri, like the Capitol building that was built, 150 years ago or something like that?
Yeah, but which also does, though, require some capital investment for upkeep, for sure.
But once again, nowadays, tell me anything you can build. You live in a house, If you buy a house and you say, well, I'm not going to have to do anything to this house for 30 years.
Right. You factor that in when you make that purchase.
Right, you got to do the roof, and you get, depending upon what the siding is, and if you got brick, and you've got concrete that chips up, and you have to replace, and you got, it settles, and you got problems with the plumbing, and the electric goes bad and stuff like that. That's just cost of doing business. You know what I'm saying?
I do, yeah. I understand that completely.
Okay, enough said of that. Okay, by the way, John Combest, popular guy, has a lot of videos out. Did you know there's another one out now, John?
I did not, on the YouTube channel?
There's another one out.
Oh, good grief. Should we check it out in real time, or should we check it out during the commercial break?
Oh, no. I'm going to play the audio right now. You ready?
I'm loading it right now. Yeah, actually, I'm not going to look. I'm gonna just listen to hear it.
Here we go.
Well, John Combest, he's a good old boy, likes his music and his down-home joy. But there's one thing that sets John apart. He's got a thing for women in their comfy shoes. He likes some ladies in their boots and sneakers, with a little heel or some cushion underneath. He don't care about fancy, just wants them relaxed. John Combest, he knows what he likes. Oh yeah. You won't catch him with them high-heel shoes. He's all about comfort, no need for the booze. He likes a woman with her feet on the ground and a little spring in her step when she's walking around. Walking around. He likes some ladies in their boots and sneakers, with a little heel or some cushion underneath. He don't care about fancy, just wants them relaxed. John Combest, he knows what he likes. Oh yeah.
There you go for some of our WIL listeners.
Just another masterpiece. Another masterpiece. I almost feel like you got to let each song breathe, because they're just so good that you got to give people time to digest before the next hit comes out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you know what? It's pretty interesting because we've had feedback from some very important people about that song.
I bet we have, Brad. I bet we've heard a lot. Now, two important things about it. For the remix, the important thing is, here's what music critics would point out, Brad. To be very lyrical there, if a woman is wearing comfortable shoes, the composer's right. The feet are on the ground, but let's face it, the legs will never be in the air. Number two, for the remix, Brad, I want to add my vomit sounds when there's things about like a small heel or flat, comfortable shoes. I think in the background we should play me puking. And you think we could get an endorsement deal from like Dr. Scholl's or like a bunion company?
Or in the background we could have,
"You shall feel the wrath of Hulkamania."
I can't hear that.
Hold on, let me do it again. Okay, I didn't press the right button there.
"You shall feel the wrath of Hulkamania."
Oh, Brad. It's just, you know what? There could be a whole album of comfortable shoes.
Oh, hold it.
We really need to talk offline about going to maybe a podiatrist and seeing if we could get a sponsorship just for the song. You know what I mean? And then there could be like that spoken word part of the song where the song comes down and I say, if you wear comfortable shoes, you'll never get my number. But here's whose number you can get. You know, Tony Bunyan can work on your high arches and your low arches and your flat feet. You know?
Oh, hold it. We have Nicole Wallace who's going to chime in on the new John Combest song.
Yes.
Nicole, go ahead.
Our sacred airwaves.
Oh, she's upset that we played that on our sacred airwaves. Oh, hold it. And the president.
You know, Brad, I'm not a foot guy, but we've spent more time in the last week talking about, you know, arches and bunions than I ever expected.
Okay, let's get the real opinion from the MEC.
I don't even know where to start from all of the things that have been said that are just wrong.
Mary Elizabeth Mary Elizabeth knows where I am on this issue. Let's just say that.
So on a 1 to 10, what do you? And the title of that song is "Kicking Back in Comfort." That's the title. That's because it's a
Brad, I can only give it an 8.5, but it's because, Brad,
yeah.
the original song with the female caterwaulers gets a 10. Like, you can't compare to the original Comfortable Shoes song. And everything else pales in comparison, Brad.
Well, hold it. You're a big rap guy, right? Maybe we need a rap hip hop version.
Oh, maybe we do. Maybe I'd like to chime in on a remix of some of this, or at least give some lyrical guidance there. You know what I mean? There is something that rhymes with stilettos.
I'm not going there. We have to take a break.
We don't go there.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?